I never wanted them to forget Babe Ruth. I just wanted them to remember Hank Aaron. These words from Hank Aaron show us just how humble this great baseball player was. Today, we're going to learn about the amazing life of Hank Aaron, one of the best baseball players ever, and a true American hero. Hank Aaron was born on February 5, 1934 in Mobile, Alabama. He was the third of 8 children born to Herbert and Estella Aaron. Life wasn't easy for young Hank. His family didn't have much money, and because he was black, he faced unfair treatment called segregation. As a boy, Hank loved baseball. He didn't have real baseball equipment, so he made do with what he had. He used sticks as bats and bottle caps as balls. Even with these simple tools, Hank became really good at hitting. Hank didn't like school very much. He preferred to be outside playing baseball. When he was a teenager, he transferred to the Allen Institute, a school that had a real baseball program. This was his chance to show everyone how good he was. Growing up in the segregated South, Hank faced many challenges. He saw signs that said whites only and colored only. He couldn't go to the same places or use the same things as white people. But Hank didn't let this stop him from dreaming big. When Hank was 18, he got his first big break. He joined a team called the Indianapolis Clowns in the Negro Leagues. Back then, black players weren't allowed in Major League Baseball. Hank only played for the Clowns for 3 months, but he was so good that he caught the eye of a scout from the major leagues. In 1952, Hank signed with the Boston Braves organization. He played for their minor league team in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. This was Hank's first time living outside the segregated South, and it was a big change for him. The next year, in 1953, Hank played for the Jacksonville Braves in Florida. This was one of the first integrated teams in the South Atlantic League. It wasn't easy being one of the first black players in the league. Fans sometimes said mean things, and Hank couldn't stay in the same hotels or eat in the same restaurants as his white teammates. But Hank kept focused on baseball and had an amazing season. In 1954, at just 20 years old, Hank made it to the big leagues with the Milwaukee Braves. Even though Jackie Robinson had broken the color barrier in baseball 7 years earlier, it was still hard for black players. They had to work extra hard to prove they belonged. Hank's first few years in the majors were good, but not spectacular. He was learning and improving all the time. In 1956, he won his first batting title, meaning he had the highest batting average in the league. In 1957, Hank had an amazing year. He won the Most Valuable Player award in the National League. He hit the most home runs and drove in the most runs that year. He also helped his team win the World Series against the New York Yankees. People started to notice how good Hank was. From 1955 to 1975, he was picked for the All-Star team every single year. That's 21 years in a row. But even though he was one of the best players in baseball, he didn't always get the attention he deserved. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, Hank kept playing great baseball. He won 2 more batting titles and led the league in home runs 3 more times. He was becoming known as one of the best all-around players in the game. In 1966, Hank's team moved from Milwaukee to Atlanta. This was a big change for Hank. Atlanta was in the South, where racism was still a big problem, but Hank kept playing great baseball. He hit at least 30 home runs in a season for 15 different years. That's a record that still stands today. In Atlanta, Hank became more involved in the civil rights movement. He spoke out against racism and worked to make things better for black people in baseball and in society. As Hank got older, he kept hitting home runs. People started to realize that he might break one of the biggest records in baseball, Babe Ruth's record of 714 career home runs. Babe Ruth was a white player who was seen as a hero by many people. Some people didn't like the idea of a black player breaking his record. This should have been an exciting time for Hank, but it wasn't always happy. He started getting mean letters from people who didn't want him to break the record. It was a scary and stressful time for Hank and his family. The FBI had to protect Hank and his family. He couldn't always stay with his teammates or go out in public. It was a hard time, but Hank stayed strong and kept playing. Despite all the challenges, Hank kept playing and hitting home runs. On April 8, 1974 in Atlanta, Hank came up to bat. He already had 714 home runs, tied with Babe Ruth. On his second time at bat that night, Hank hit the ball hard and it flew over the fence. Home run number 715. He had broken the record. Hank's teammates and even 2 fans ran onto the field to congratulate him. It was a historic moment in baseball and in American history. A black man had broken one of the most famous records in sports. After he hit the home run, Hank gave a short speech. He thanked his parents and the fans. He also said he was glad that he could show that a black person could do something big like this. Hank Hank kept playing for a couple more years. He finished his career with the Milwaukee Brewers, the team that had brought him into the major leagues. He retired in 1976 with 755 career home runs. He had played for 23 years in the major leagues. Besides home runs, Hank also had the most runs batted in and the most total bases of any player ever. These records still stand today. After he stopped playing, Hank didn't leave baseball behind. He worked for the Atlanta Braves team in the front office. He became one of the first black executives in Major League Baseball. He also used his fame to speak up for black players and coaches in baseball. He wanted to make sure everyone had a fair chance in the sport he loved. In 1982, Hank was voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. This is the highest honor a baseball player can receive. It means that Hank will always be remembered as one of the greatest players ever. Hank also worked to help young people. He started the Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream Foundation, which gives money to help kids follow their dreams. As time passed, people appreciated Hank Aaron more for his skill, grace, and courage in standing up for what's right. In 1999, Major League Baseball created the Hank Aaron Award to honor the best hitters each year. In 2002, President Bush awarded Aaron the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing his impact beyond baseball. In 2007, Barry Bonds broke Aaron's home run record, but many still consider Aaron the true home run king, due to questions about modern players using performance-enhancing drugs. In his later years, Aaron advocated for diversity in baseball management and encouraged young black kids to play baseball. He passed away on January 22, 2021, at 86, remembered worldwide as both a great player and a great man.